Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pivoting to Success. I'm your host, David Armento. I'm the CEO of KME Technology Solutions. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Deanna Robinson, who is the CEO of Social Impressions. Deanna, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Social Impressions?
Social Impression is a full service marketing agency. We obviously do a lot of social media where we help businesses and entrepreneurs with their social profiles, posting on behalf of them. We also act as a fractional CMO to some of our clients, which means we act as basically their outsourced marketing department. So we're able to offer strategy, planning, and implementation. And if they have a marketing department, we like to think of ourselves as the buffer between the executives and maybe somebody who's a little bit greener. So we can help
Okay,
mentor them, we can help them be a little bit more strategic in their decisions and catch with overflow.
great. Thanks so much for explaining that to us. So, why don't you share a little bit of how you got your company started? You know, what was the beginning of your journey and how you and kind of how you got here?
My journey is not like many. It was straight by accident.
Okay.
I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I obviously was in marketing before, and I
Okay.
just like giving a lot of advice to people, whether they ask for it or not. So it started with like the little local companies, a
Okay.
local baker walked in, I'd bring my daughter in and I just started giving them ideas. And then that turned into another catering company and I gave them ideas. And
Okay.
you get the picture. And one day I
Yeah.
looked around and I was like, oh my goodness, I have a business. What's the
Yeah.
plan? So I kind of then stumbled into it that way.
Okay. Well, I guess it's good that you have the marketing background, though. I mean, because I find for us, we're an IT company and we do B2B, and our biggest challenge is customer acquisition and kind of getting in front of folks and letting us know that we exist. That's been one of our challenges. So it's good that you have that background. I mean, I guess it's kind of a natural, progression because you can at least know, how to get in front of people when you want to, right? So
100%. Yes. Like that part's not the hard part for us.
okay.
Yeah. So you're right. As soon as it kind of was like, oh, we have something here, then the plan of what to do with it was an easy segue.
Yeah. What do you think what's been your biggest challenge that you faced so far in starting your business journey?
The biggest challenge is the stuff that you don't foresee. It's the little things that kind of snag you by the boot, keeping ahead of technology, knowing where to spend your time, if that makes sense, because there's
It
a
does.
lot of noise in the market. And I don't mean noise in a bad way. There's a lot of really great things that are out there, but it's knowing where to spend your time and where not to spend your time, or like when is it a good time to switch or when is it not? And kind of also foreseeing the future of what maybe your future needs may be,
Yeah.
whether that be by company size or by company market. So I think that's probably the biggest hurdle because you just don't always know which way to go and if you're making the right decision.
Yeah, I found for me, that jack of all trades, like having to do everything, having to be the accounting department, and for us, the marketing department, that's been a big adjustment. I don't have any marketing background. I'm a technologist, and that's what I enjoy doing. And so for us, it's been a journey of mistakes, and
Yeah.
to be quite honest, mistakes, a little bit of wasted money, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's good lessons, and you really, it is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination, right? And it is that that cliche is so true in this particular process because what we thought was critical for us to grow, or even what I thought this was going to be when we started. I really thought it was going to be more. We originally, when we started KME Technology Solutions, it was going to be more CTO and CISO as a service, which is Chief Technology
Yeah.
Officer and Chief Information Security Officer exclusively. And then we've kind of branched down into a full-fledged managed MSP, and we're doing everything for customers now, and we're doing their help desk and managing their computers and doing their backups. But that was not originally what I envisioned the strategy to be. And
Yes.
so we started on one path that was very different, and ultimately had to pivot and kind of make some big changes and adjustments. But they've been good. They've been humbling, and
Yeah.
it's been quite a journey. So
It's pivoting is, I think, crucial when it comes to being in a
yeah.
business, right? Knowing your plan and knowing when though sometimes it's okay to kind of explore the other, pathway to see if it's, a good one.
That and I find that getting comfortable with being uncomfortable because
Yes.
for we're always learning, and I think that's the greatest. If I could take one kind of thing that's really great about owning your own organization is that you're constantly being challenged every day. There's some new challenge that has to come up that you've got to solve a problem for. That is exciting to me. I really
Yeah,
enjoy solving problems at my core. That's what I really like to do. It is very difficult sometimes. Sometimes you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, but it is quite rewarding when you get those aha moments and you're able to find success. So
totally. I mean, kind of off of that, I always say to people, it always sounds great to be an entrepreneur, right? And to be a business owner and you make your own schedule and you can do what you
yeah,
want. There's nobody to record you. And it's true. That really is
that is
great
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also so many of those other days where, like, at the core, don't just focus maybe on being the business owner or the entrepreneur. Just make sure you really, really like and believe in what you're doing, because on those bad days, they're low. The
Yep.
good days are high, but the low days are low, and they're more frequent sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah.
so,
Especially in the beginning,
love it.
right? When you're kind of
Yeah,
forging the path, bushwhacking, like, there's
yeah,
going to be a lot of potholes and divots that you're going to step into. So, kind of moving on to the next question, what key moment in your business story? So how long have you been in business now? Just out of curiosity.
yeah. 12 years since
Wow.
that
Okay.
first bakery client,
Wow.
knocked on the door.
So when did you realize that this was a thing? You kind of mentioned it earlier, it was one client, then it was another client, then it was another, but when did you feel, I always say, like, when was I feel like I'm really doing this kind of moment?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it was about 9 years that I was a true business. And
Okay.
it's been about 8 years since I was like, let's do this.
Okay.
Like let's blow it up and let's surround yourselves with more experts than just being the expert, if that makes
Yeah,
sense,
it does make sense. Yeah, that's a hard transition to kind of take yourself out of what got you there. Like for you, marketing, for me, technology, me realizing that I can't always fix things, even maybe I could do it faster, maybe, hopefully I could do it
Yeah.
better, right? But at the reality, making that transition to being a CEO it's been a difficult one for me. I've struggled to let go. And
Same. And
yeah,
I think it's something that constantly I struggle with. I mean,
yeah,
I'll do really good and really good for a while. And then one day I'll catch myself knee deep in all these projects and then
right.
realize I've been sitting knee deep in these projects for the last few weeks, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, how did I get so back involved? When did that like slippery slope happen? So it's almost like a constant thing, at least for me, that I know I have to always remind myself, like, let others too.
Yeah.
And half the time at this point for me, I don't know about for you, while it's not even that I can do it quicker or better or anything like that, it's just like I enjoy it. Like
Well,
occasionally you
that's
just, you know what I
yes.
mean? So you're like, it will take a few minutes and a few minutes
Yes.
turn into a few hours, but it's a happy, safe place to be playing
Yes.
in,
It
you
is like
know?
it's so comfortable. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, an old friend almost,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. That's definitely been a challenge for me. Kind of talking about team building and, staff, you mentioned you brought some people on. How do you approach building and leading a high performing team? Like, what do you find for you and your organization works to make, because I know for us as a small business, we need folks who are really performing at a high level
Yeah.
in order for us to continue to be successful and grow in the way which we want to. So what are some things that you look for, or some structures that you put in place to help facilitate that?
My number one thing is that they have to have that geeky passion for marketing, because
Okay.
I
That's fair.
truly believe that's what sets me apart from others.
Okay.
There's tons of marketing out there and there's a lot of solid marketing, but
Yeah.
everybody does things a little bit different. And I
Yeah.
think what sets social impression apart is we just love it. We're just marketing geeks. And when we start talking about marketing, you can't hide it. It just like oozes out. So when the people on my team that I surround myself with, they have to have that too. And not necessarily maybe in every section of marketing because they might be very specialized,
Sure. Sure.
but it has to show, because that also then means they're reading about it in their time off. They're thinking about it in their time off, when they're not on the clock. It's just part of who they are.
Right.
And then it just makes them good at their job. So that's a big thing for how I staff my team.
I also think that comes back to what you were saying earlier about having the tough days, right? If you love and you're geeking out on the work that you're doing, the tough days are just a little bit easier. They're not easy, but
Yeah.
I feel like they come with less weight. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you were still doing something you enjoyed at its core, and even though there may have been some drama on that particular day or some crap that you had to deal with, I personally find, kind of on those days, I just revert back to what I love, and the day goes a little bit faster, it goes a little bit easier, and I kind of get out of the funk. So,
Yeah.
besides geeking out on marketing, any other qualities that you look for in either staff or leaders, one or the other?
Yeah, you need to be able to self-manage. I don't like to micromanage, and it's not a
Yeah.
strong sense like thing for me, to be honest. Because if I'm
Yeah.
micromanaging, that means I'm so in the weeds and then I'm just taking it and doing it by
Yeah.
accident.
Agreed.
So being able to kind of be a self, you know, doing jobs by yourself, asking for help, of course, like when you need it, or flagging me down if you
Right.
need time, type of thing. But being able just to take on task and just jump ahead and learn something or do it, that is a beneficial, thing for somebody on my team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I call it a motor, just kind of having that drive to get things done. And then the other thing I would just add is really,
Like that.
you know, coming to me with this, you got a problem. Don't just come to me with a problem. Come to me with an idea, even if it's a bad idea. Take the time to think about, change your mindset. Stop looking at it from the negative. How are we going to work through this? Because even I always say this, when you are troubleshooting a problem, any problem, it could be a marketing problem, could be an IT problem, could be just a general business problem. When you allow people to think freely and brainstorm without fear of being teased, made fun of, put down, the best ideas, even if the first idea was the worst idea, it triggers the best idea. It could have been
Yeah.
ludicrous and made everyone laugh, but it developed like a comfort and a rapport in the room that triggered a thought in someone else. And then that other person comes up with a great idea. And so I think in troubleshooting or brainstorming, there's really no bad suggestion, because it always triggers, it gets that like creative juices flowing. And so being fearless in that space is really critical to me. So,
Completely agree. So, I mean, my side, we're marketing. So
right,
we
right.
love any and all ideas. And I
Okay.
just had a strategy session yesterday, and we basically sit around. And it's like a therapy session for marketing. And I'm like, I want to know everything that you ever thought, any crazy ideas you had,
Yeah.
because we might not use it now. And it might be a crazy idea, but that's going to live in my brain. And at some point, it just might fit. And there might be the right time that we can spin it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of marketing. It's a creative thing. So.
What new things are kind of shaping the marketing industry? Especially, I mean, I know you kind of focus more on social media marketing. So where do you see, the next 24 to 36 months? Like, what are the things that are moving the buck forward in your world, whether
Oh
it's
man. I
technology
mean,
or something else?
yeah, I mean AI.
Yeah.
AI is
Yeah.
not going anywhere. I don't think. So it's, full speed ahead. So, we're trying to keep up with it and stay
Okay.
ahead of the curve and just understand it. Because it's nothing really to be afraid of,
Agreed.
in the
Agreed.
sense for business purposes. It's just how is it used? It can't take over. It can't be the solution, but it could be
No.
a good tool for people, whether that be
Yeah.
clients, whether it be employees, whatever the case, because it makes you smarter, it makes you faster, it can make you more productive, but you have to make sure you don't get lost in it. And you
Agreed.
have to make sure that you're still at the core who you are. So for
Yeah.
us, it's just figuring out what's coming next, but and how to teach our clients about it and as well as ourselves,
Yeah.
without losing 8 hours of time also just playing in it and doing nothing.
I mean, for me, I see a couple different things. The AI buzz. I mean, there's a lot of marketing, and there, in this case, in my opinion, as a person who sits in technology, there's a lot of noise, and
Yeah.
there's really only four core AI technologies that have come to market, and the rest of it is either licensed flavors of that technology,
Yeah.
right? So there's kind of the adaptive language AI, which is the big one, which is ChatGPT. There's the audio, there's the video, and they're kind of doing some cool things. But a lot of the different versions of these things that you hear is really just a company licensing that technology and just putting their own little take on it, right? Which there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with. But that means that there's a lot of people competing in the same exact space. And I'm just finding that a lot of them are doing the same things. Really, they're slapping a different logo on it. They're not really changing the game. I think the things that I have found from AI is, number one, it doesn't replace people, at least not yet,
No.
right? So that
No. And
fear
and
needs to be let
hopefully
go of.
never will.
Hopefully never
Yeah,
will,
you
right?
need that.
I agree with you. And then I think it does some things great. So for me, the biggest benefit that I've seen in AI is actually in cybersecurity. So when we look at how computers are protected, AI, who's it's actually been out longer than ChatGPT, we've been using it now for about 4 years, 5 years consistently. And the main companies that we use it through are a company called CrowdStrike, and then the other one is Sentinel One. They use AI to look at behaviors on machines. So you're on your computer right now and something goes off that is totally out of the ordinary of your daily operations. They're using an AI algorithm to kind of determine that that was outside of your typical
That's
trajectory,
cool.
and I'm shutting it down. And the more important thing for me as someone who's trying to help businesses secure themselves is at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you've got that person that works all night, you don't have to be up looking an alert. It actually
Mm-hmm.
took an action based on the logic that's in there that this was too risky. I'm going to stop that process immediately. If it's really bad, I'm going to shut the machine down. And even though that's an
Wow.
inconvenience, right? No one had to do anything. And yes, I'll get a phone
Yeah.
call and we'll need to make sure that that was right. But, and it's also not, it's not looking at like your browser history. That's not what it's looking at, right? So if you're
Yeah,
looking
no,
at something,
it's just
maybe you,
stopping
you know, you
problems.
didn't want everyone to know about at 3 a.m. That's not what it's looking at. It's really looking at the back end of the machine and making a difference. And what we're finding is that speed is stopping things in their tracks. And we just can't get enough folks to look at those things all the time. You can't be omnipresent. And so that's where AI in my field is really differentiating. So
That's really neat. I had not heard about that. So
yeah.
thanks for sharing that because it's awesome.
Do you have any advice for aspiring leaders? We always ask for any important skills. If someone wants to get into an entrepreneurship, or even just moving through the ranks, maybe they want to be a CMO one day. What do you think are traits or things that they could cultivate that would help them achieve their goals?
So I think they're probably different things. I think if you want to move up the ranks within a company, the best way is to make yourself seen. You know,
That's
you're
good.
gonna
Yeah.
need to step out of the comfort zone and you're gonna need to take on projects and ask questions. And they might even feel beneath you, but
Right.
it's learning and it's also making the right people know your name and trust that you're somebody who just gets the job done. Because I think
Right.
you would agree, David, like as a CEO, not all of our jobs every moment of the day is glamorous. Sometimes
Never.
it's it's not at all.
Never.
So, but it has to be done.
I was
And
doing, QuickBooks invoicing right before I got on the podcast with you. You know what I mean? So no, that is not what I
oh,
want to be
I hate
doing.
that.
Right. Right. So,
Yeah. So, but like, so being able to, when moving through the company is, getting people to know your name and that you're a go-to. I think that's helpful. And I guess the same thing could be, carried over into being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
You're going to have to take risks and you're going to have to believe in yourself and you're going to have to work your
Yeah.
butt off, but it's definitely worth it. Just make sure that it's what you really want because it's not
Yes.
9 to 5,
Yep.
it's all in and it's totally feasible and it's whatever you dream it to be. And that's kind of the coolest part
I
about it
agree with you.
when you're creating your own thing. You can be a, $20 billion company if you want or not.
Right.
You can also just be around 500 or whatever. You can do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Um, and there's power in that, but you also have to be the one to create and do it.
Yep.
Nobody else is doing it for
There's
you.
power and there's responsibility, right? And
Yeah,
that's the reality.
power and
I
responsibility.
would piggyback. I spent a lot of time in enterprise in big companies, right? So I worked in several large organizations. I enjoyed my time there. I think the thing that made me successful is I was willing to kind of work as much as I needed to, and I think that's good and bad. I'm not saying that's for everyone. I always joke like all my emails are read at every moment of every day, and that's crazy. That's my crazy though. That's what works for
Yeah,
me.
I
And
get
so
it.
that may not work for someone else, right? And so I know like my wife thinks it's totally nuts that I do that all the time. And it's not just work emails, personal email too. And it's totally bananas. But that is what keeps me organized. And so I have found that being willing to take on, like you said, projects, take risks, take on the bigger projects, and just know and trust in myself that I was going to deliver. And not that I wasn't going to make mistakes. Of course I was going to make mistakes, but I always just found that making sure I kept my mistakes small enough that they weren't major issues, right? So I could
Truth.
learn and grow and kind of put those guide rails in. But a lot of that came with being willing to ask for help when I needed it. If I didn't know
Mhm.
something, sitting down with a leader and saying, "Hey, I don't know it, but I'm gonna go figure it out. Give me the space to
Yes.
figure it out first." Or if they had to do something like a project was so big that we needed to bring in help, I sat with the folks who knew more than me and just learned as much as I possibly could and took advantage of that. In the entrepreneur side, I've found that for me, the first thing is, and you kind of mentioned and hit on this earlier, just knowing that you love what you're doing, because this is not, like you said, it's not 9 to 5. And even though there is flexibility, if you want to go do something in the middle of the day, you might have a couple hours where you can sneak away. But I have always found that whatever you gave up, you're going to have to do later. Either you're
Oh,
going to have to
yeah.
ask someone to do it for you, you're going to have to hire someone to do it. So you're either paying for it or you're giving up your time, right?
Yeah.
And so just being willing and recognizing that there's a cost for every single thing you do. Um, and then the last thing is, for me, I just have found that I have been most successful when I bet on myself. And I can't stress that enough. I remember I was consulting, W-2 consulting, so kind of staff augmentation, so not really out on my own, but kind of in a unique space. And I remember people in my life not really thinking that was crazy. You should be an employee, you should do this. And so I went and I converted to an employee in an organization. and it ultimately wound up, it wasn't a bad thing per se. I learned a lot, but at the end of the day, that like ability for them to get more time from me without any additional compensation was not a good formula for me, because I
Yeah.
worked way more than what the salary
Yeah.
justified. And I can't turn that off. That is who I am at my core. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, come into this role, you work less." That doesn't work for me. I remember I took one,
Mhm.
and I got like 6 hobbies in the first 3 months. And I was like, what am I doing here? And because for me, the work is a big part of my
Yeah.
hobby. I like it that much. And so, that is an interesting, way to be. So that's just kind of my
Yeah,
food for
I
thought.
get it. And I bet you there's a lot more like us that in as a founder or entrepreneur that fits that same role. That
Yeah.
would be my guess. I mean, you've actually meet with a lot of people, so you probably can answer that if you hear that a lot. But I would
I have
imagine a
heard,
lot of us are.
I mean, this is kind of a new journey for us with the podcast. We're really just starting this, but I will say that as a consensus that
Yeah.
you're in it because you like it, because
Yeah.
you cannot fake liking something. That is just not possible. And I do
No.
believe that
And
is a consensus for all of us.
yeah.
So
And like, I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes like it'll be 1 a.m. and I'll be checking my emails and sitting on the
I know.
couch and relaxing. But like it's part of the process. I don't hate it. Others think it's crazy. But
Right.
when it's it doesn't. It's okay.
Yeah. Where can listeners connect with you or learn more about your organization or partnering with you?
Yeah, so you can either go to www.socialimpression.org or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Of course, there's a company page or me personally. It's Deanna Robinson, CEO of Social Impression.
This was another great conversation with Deanna. We really appreciate you having you on the show. Thank you for sticking with us until the end. If you gain value from today's episode, we'd love for you to leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you know someone in the marketing industry or anyone looking to scale their career or business, send this episode their way. The one key insight from today that I think that we both agreed on was having passion for what you do. And if you can take away from that and put it into action, I think that you'll find success in any endeavor that you take on. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day.